Okay, so now we're going to talk about sprueing and gating a wax object. And in this case, we've got the foot. Again, this has the signature on it. And you'll notice I also put my own name on it and the year, making sure it was 2018 because this could easily last hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. So you want to identify when it was made. Now, as I showed you, the wax is just 3/16 of an inch thick, and you'll notice I also kept a couple of tabs on the bottom here so that I have a place to attach mounting bolts after I've finished casting the piece. So you have to think about this a couple of different ways. Remember, this is wax, it's a flammable material, and I will be encasing it in a fireproof material, baking out the wax, leaving a void, an empty space that's just that thick and just this shape. In order to get the wax out and to get the bronze in to that empty space that the wax left behind, I have to make a network of arteries and veins, a way for the bronze to flow in and the air to come out. And at this thickness, I know that my bronze, even though it's at 2,000 degrees, will only flow about a palm spread. The spread of my palm, right there, from every connection point that I make with a wax rod of this size. And I have to place this in a mold, trying to get the orientation so it's as vertical as possible. Doesn't make much sense to cast it horizontally. It's much better to cast vertically. And I want the heaviest part of the casting, the bottom of the foot, to be at the bottom of the mold. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is add stilts at the bottom here, probably 4 stilts, and these will be, about 1.5 inches long. And I'll attach those using a hot knife. All these connections, I'll just be using a hot knife. And I mean, the wax could stick by itself because it's soft, but it just wouldn't have any strength. So by taking a hot knife and putting it between the 2 pieces of wax and then immediately gently touching them together, we get a very strong connection, and that should hold up this wax during the process of sprueing and gating and investing, which is the next step, and we'll go through investment later on. This piece came out of the mold pretty well, and I did need to clean up the seams, and there are a couple of tiny little spots, air pockets, if you will, that formed from the wax going in. And I take a tool and smooth those over, but I'll also be able to smooth all this over when it gets into bronze. I'll be able to grind those surfaces and make them perfect. So I'm going to just start putting on the screws and gates, and I'll just turn on my little torch here. Just works on propane. My hot knife, I'll heat it up. I don't want the wax that's on my knife to drip on my hand, so I hit the table, cut a piece about 1.5 inches, and put the knife in between, get it melted, attach it, and let it go. Oh, just thought about something. This won't be standing straight up. This will be standing at an angle. So I want to make sure that these are horizontal. And so the next 2 will be a slightly different distance. They'll be a little shorter. Then I'm going to interconnect these at the halfway point. Then I'll use a larger, thicker rod. This is about a ½ inch thick of wax. And the reason this wax is red versus this, which is a brown, is I buy these pre-made, and this is a slightly stronger wax, a little stiffer wax than the brown wax. And I need this to travel. I'm doing this on the table, so ultimately this will stand like this in the mold. And but it's just much easier to put together while it's laying down. I'm going to put a little block of wood in here to hold this while I make this connection. Now I'm going to add more connectors, and these are called risers. And they're called risers because they rise from the main sprue, the big fat rod, up to the wax. And there's a reason for that, of course. So that is going to be bent, and I cut these like French green beans. So they're at a diagonal on both ends. And I want to make a large connection at the sprue and a very tiny connection at the sculpture. So let me just put those on. I want to get my knife smoking hot, so you actually see smoke, but I don't want it to get so hot that it bursts into flames. And I keep hitting the table because I don't want wax to drip off my knife and onto my sculpture or onto my skin. Okay, now the reason all of this layout and the connection points and everything is for reasons of fluid dynamics. So I'm going to eventually attach a wax cup to the top of this. And there is, once this burns out, imagine everything's going to be a hollow space. So I'm going to pour bronze into the cup. It's going to travel down this big tube, empty space, split here at the bottom, and then go up the stilts. So in order, I don't want it to start filling the top and the bottom at the same time. It would trap air in between. So it comes down the sprue first, splits, goes up the stilts, and then as this fills up, it's going to backfeed because these rise from the sprue up to the sculpture. The bronze is going to bypass those tubes initially, and then it's going to backfeed and connect to the sculpture. And you'll notice I've got them spread out so that they overlap that palm spread difference of area, right? Multiple locations. Now, ultimately, this will fill up as I'm pouring bronze into it, and as it fills up, the hottest metal will be going to just the area that's being filled. So it's like this ever-shortening U-shaped pattern. Then finally, when it gets to the top of this, I will need to take the air and get it to the outside of the mold, because this will be an empty space. So I'm first going to attach a little egg-shaped reservoir, and that'll be at the high spot, and then there'll be a vent coming up to the top of the cup. And this will then complete that pathway that the bronze will take. Go in the cup, down the sprue, up and fill the sculpture, finally coming out, filling this the very last. This reservoir of bronze compensates for the shrinkage that takes place as the metal cools. As it goes from liquid to solid, it shrinks a little bit, and it will draw liquid metal from the points up above. So by having this little reservoir of molten metal, I won't lose the very top edge of my casting. And like I said, finally there's just a little vent that sticks out the top of this. And when I see, as I'm pouring bronze into the cup, when I see metal come out through that vent, I'll know it's time to stop. Now, the last part that I need to include in this is, because this is hollow, once the wax burns away, what will connect the inside investment material with the outside investment material? And I will actually place nails, 10-penny nails, right through the wax, so half the nails in this void, and the other half, I'll use it's actually a golf tee, to demonstrate. So half of it will stick into the inside investment, and half will be projecting out to the outside investment. And I'll do like 6 of those, and that'll lock the investment in place during the burnout. Once the piece is cast, I have to yank those nails out, grind those holes, and weld them up so that they disappear. All right, so that gives you the basics of sprueing and gating. I will stop the video and continue on as we get into the investment process.